I want to move on to two Orioles pitchers who both finished really well. I mean, Kyle Bradish, it was really like the final 3 months of the season. But Grayson Rodriguez, after returning from the minors, a 2.58 ERA, a 1.10 WHIP, and specifically his final 6 starts of the season, a 1.80 ERA, 1.11 WHIP, nearly 10 strikeouts per 9. Kyle Bradish, I mentioned it, his final 3 months, 16 starts with a 2.14 ERA, a .93 WHIP. If you look at the season-long numbers, Bradish was second in Stuff Plus, Eno Saris' Stuff Plus metric, behind only Corbin Burns. And he made some big pitch mix changes, lowering his four-seam fastball usage. He threw his slider more, his sinker. He has an elite curveball. I think there's so much to like about both of these guys. The ADP over the last month, Grayson Rodriguez, the SP21 off the board at 71.5. Kyle Bradish, SP27 as at pick 95.5, both going inside the top 100. Scott, does that surprise you for both of these Orioles pitchers?
Inside the top 100, you say?
Yeah, for both. For Grayson, it's top 75 too.
Look, I have them both ranked high, but maybe not quite that high. Bradish, I have ranked higher than Grayson Rodriguez, so I guess just comparing those two players against each other, I'm higher on Bradish. I think my concern with Grayson Rodriguez is that while he definitely looked better coming back from the minors, throwing more strikes, having a good swinging strike rate. The strikeout rate itself, the actual number of strikeouts he was getting, was a little underwhelming for a young pitcher of his stature. And it could just be, I mean, look at the high end of the pitching ranks. Guys like Garrett Cole, Corbin Burns, guys we've come to know as 11, 12 K per 9 guys were more like 9.5 K per 9 guys this past year. And it could be that the environment's changing in a way that you don't see as those crazy high strikeout rates from really good pitchers. But I think it's a vulnerability for Grayson Rodriguez until he's really proven himself. And so I wouldn't want to invest in him as more than like ideally like a number 4 pitcher on my roster, but more realistically a number 3 pitcher. And I think I could probably, in that range you're talking about, I think I could find pitchers who still have a lot of upside that I believe in more. Kyle Bradish being one of them, just because I think he's just a little more experienced, and I trust him to take on the workload that would allow him to maximize his win potential for the Orioles a little more than I do Grayson Rodriguez. And I mean, that Stuff Plus indicator that you mentioned, Saris was pointing that out for Kyle Bradish even before the season. It kind of put him on my radar as sort of a fringe sleeper. I didn't end up with him on any rosters, but like it was a seed was planted in my mind when I saw that prior to the season that, hey, maybe there's something I'm missing here with Kyle Bradish, and he could become a worthy fantasy pitcher. And certainly over the final 2/3 of the season, that seemed to happen.
One thing I want to point out on Grayson Rodriguez is he doesn't look great by K per 9. He was just under a strikeout per 9 innings in August and September, 59 strikeouts and 59.2 innings. League average K per 9 last year was 8.74. So he was, in terms of K per 9, really, really close to league average. League average strikeout rate was 22.7%. He was at 24.8%. So he was about 10% or 2 percentage points, however you want to frame it, better than league average by K rate. It's just that when you're dealing with small samples, this is a good example of why K percentage is better than K per 9 in smaller sample sizes. The larger sample sizes, it tends to come out in the wash, but he had a 1.09-ish whip. I don't know what it was exactly because I just didn't click that part. League average whip was 1.31. So this is one where K per 9 probably underrates him as a strikeout pitcher because he was pitching so well otherwise. He was seeing fewer batters per inning, leading to fewer Ks per 9, if that makes sense. So that's one where while he was, I think, still a little underwhelming in terms of strikeout rate, he's someone that certainly you would think is in that like 27 to 28% strikeout range more than 25%.
Yeah.
He was above average on a per batter basis. It just, he pitched so well that it didn't show up. And, and I think Grayson Rodriguez is probably someone who needs to, there's probably some tweaking left in the arsenal and how he deploys it, because the slider's a really good swing and miss pitch. He only threw it 14% of the time. The curveball, pretty good swing and miss pitch. He only threw it 8% of the time. That's probably something where, as he gets a little more experience, he'll probably, most pitchers throw their fastball less the more experience they get. So that's something that I do think it's, him and Yuri Perez stand out as guys who I think will take a big step forward in their strikeout rate in 2024.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know how much I believe the idea that, Grayson Rodriguez, he's not a good strikeout pitcher, because, I mean, you look at what you were talking about, you look at the swinging strike rate, which I pointed out. You look at the arsenal, which is full of swing and miss pitches. But like, until he does it, I've never been a big fan of the unless he's actually done it, we shouldn't pay for him like he's done it, you know, which will make me miss out on Bobby Witt in round one sometimes. But, you know, it'll prevent a lot of misfortunes as well. And once he came back from the minors, Grayson Rodriguez never had more than 7 strikeouts in a game. And so, like, I have a hard time just presuming that those strikeouts will come when as a top 75 pick would require me to do.
I think I would expect it though, Scott, because you did see it in the swinging strike rate, right? His final 13 starts after returning, 13% swinging strike rate. If you just compare that to, qualified starting pitchers, that would have ranked 9th among all starters. So if he can maintain that level of swinging strikes, I do think you can project, 9, 10, 8 or 9.
Okay, but he's
Grayson Rodriguez.
I think the bigger thing
he's going ahead of Kodai Senga.
Yeah, he's being drafted in. He's being drafted.
I don't have him ranked ahead of Senga, by the way. Like, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, well, that's my point. Is I see the upside. I think he's probably going to meet the upside. But what are you giving up in pursuit of that upside? And it's too good for me. If we're just going by ADP, it's too good for me.
Yeah, it's the opportunity cost for Grayson Rodriguez, and when we get down to other ADP. It might turn out to be the same thing for Yuri Perez and Bobby Miller. I mean, these are pitchers that are really talented and we like them, but you do have to pay the price so far in early drafts to get those guys.